whole child. We can get free college degrees based on all of the opportunities that are out here and available to our students.
Oftentimes, as parents, I think we want to protect our kids, but I think one of the greatest gifts we can give them is allow them to experience adversity.
Here are your hosts, David and Danita Bailey.
Good morning. Welcome to School Days, Help for Moms and Dads of School-Age Kids. I'm Danita Bailey.
And I'm David Bailey.
Education reform has caused an erosion of play and physical education from our schools. Research shows that play has many benefits, and its absence is having a negative impact on children. And play isn't just important for young students. Research shows that older students and even adults need to take time to play. Today we've asked two associates from Texas Christian University to talk to us about the LiiNK Project, which stands for Let's Inspire Innovation in Kids. And they'll tell us about the importance of play for students of all ages. So, how much did you play outside as a kid?
That's pretty much all I did.
Really?
I mean, after school, I would come home and play. Or I would watch TV, maybe watch it. Remember the ABC after school specials? Yeah, remember
course.
That? Yes. Yeah, I'd watch that sometimes. Then I'd play. Then the summertime, I couldn't keep me in the house. I was gone. I'd get up and, I did my sport. I either had, some type of, told you I played all the non-glory sports. I did tennis and swimming and stuff, which is, anyway. Talk about that in another episode. But then after that, I'd be out all day. Then come home, eat, and go back out, play again. Come home and eat. And I'd play until, my parents just let me go. I'd be out until 10
Those were nice
o'clock
days.
at night. And we used to play a jailbreak or release.
What's jailbreak?
Where two teams, and one team goes out to the neighborhood or hides behind something within a certain range. The other team hunts and finds you. If they catch you, you go back to the base. And then other people have to come and release you. You can only play at dusk, like at night. Okay. It was fun, and I played hard. I went hard.
Okay.
Did you go hard, babe?
No, not that hard.
I know what you did in the summertime.
We don't have to tell them about my cleaning habits in the summertime.
Yeah, she go hard on the cleaning. She would literally. I know we talked about this in another episode.
We did.
Yeah, she would literally grab a cleaning cart. And walk around the house. 13, 12, 11?
Something like that.
Oh, Lord have mercy. And clean all day.
I was trying to keep myself busy, and I enjoy cleaning. It's
Yeah.
therapeutic.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, yeah.
But I swam a lot.
Yeah.
I was outside every day swimming.
Swimming?
Hmm?
I've never seen you swim before.
Yes, you have seen me swim.
Like swim or like paddle?
No, I can swim. I can swim underwater.
Can you do butterfly?
No.
Backstroke?
Yeah, I can do the backstroke.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Breaststroke?
No.
Freestyle?
Are you trying to...
No, I'm just...
You trying to start?
Anyway, I don't know. I'm just asking a question. Anyway. Okay, so, yeah, I played more than you.
Yeah, I guarantee you played more than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's still true to this day.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes, I'm a little stuffier than you for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So recess. Did you have recess every day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So did I. You know that's not the norm anymore, necessarily, everywhere. Mm-mm.
Mm.
Not every schools have recess. And you had gym every day too, right?
Maybe in elementary school. I don't recall. I remember my PE teacher, Mr. Bernard. He was awesome. It was like
What grade was this?
this was
Or
elementary
all through
school.
elementary?
Yeah, and I mean PE. That was the highlight of my day. I mean that was
Right.
yeah, that was it. That was
Dodgeball.
Yeah,
Climbing the ropes.
yeah. And I was a double dutch king. I was.
I want to see you do this
Oh yeah, I was getting it. I think I had the record at my school. It might still stand to this day. I was good.
You have the double Dutch record
And
of...
double dutch and the single like speed jump roping. I was good.
I believe you.
Don't get it twisted.
Okay.
Don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right, let's go.
Very impressive. Okay.
I can't give her all the secrets at the beginning.
I guess not. I mean, but we have been married 15 years.
Oh, that's
It's
true.
time to let all the rest of the secrets
yeah.
out.
If I would have told her that in the beginning, I don't know if we'd be married to this day. But I was like, hey, babe, say, girl, the double Dutch king. Did you know that?
That might have maybe come to you sooner, babe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty
I'm
impressive.
gonna have to start double dutching again. Wow. Anyway.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, before we get too much off track, more than we are, we want to say I can't even go on. Before we go any further, We do want to say it takes a village. If you hear a great parenting tip or nugget of advice, share it with your parent friends. Facebook it, Instagram it, tweet it, link it in, and add the hashtag School Days Show and I Am School Days. And also, we want you guys to be a part of the show. So if you have any questions, give us a call at 214-431-5062. So Dave, who do we have with us today?
Okay, so we have Dr. Debbie Ray, and she's an Associate Dean of Health Sciences and Research, Director of the PhD in Health Sciences Program, Professor of Kinesiology, and Founding Director of the LiiNK Project at Texas Christian University, otherwise known as TCU. Dr. Ray has been an educator for the past 39 years, the first 11 years in K-12 physical education, and the last 28 years at the university level preparing physical education teachers and supporting faculty research across the health sciences fields. She is an author, researcher, motivational speaker, educational consultant, and behavior change trainer. Dr. Ray received national media attention as a result of the LiiNK from many different news outlets such as the Today Show, the Washington Post, and the NBC Nightly News. She has published in numerous journals and presented professionally on many different topics related to living a healthy and productive life. Dr. Ray has received the Chancellor's Award for Distinguished Achievement as a creative teacher and scholar and a healthcare hero from the Dallas Business Journal and the Fort Worth Business Press. And here we go. Oh, and she creates intrinsically to help motivate active, healthy children. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Right.
And we also have Dave Farbo. We have another Dave in the studio today. Currently serves as research associate for the LiiNK Project. He earned his master's degree in kinesiology with a concentration in exercise psychology and is currently pursuing his PhD from Texas Christian University. As a master's student working with the LiiNK Project, he studied physical activity patterns and emotional stability among children in the unstructured play environment. Dave has presented his thesis results and other LiiNK-related research from his time as a master's student at 3 international conferences. He has also submitted a couple of manuscripts for publication and has been involved in writing of 3 grants received during his time at TCU. Before joining the LiiNK team, Dave obtained his bachelor's degree in physical education and teacher certification from Bridgewater State University. Where's Bridgewater?
Bridgewater's up in Massachusetts, kind of near Boston.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. That's pretty cold up there.
Yeah,
Aren't you glad you're down here burning up in Texas?
Glad to be in Texas for sure.
Well, welcome both of you guys.
Thank you.
Let's jump right in. So tell us about LiiNK Project and why you developed it and what it is, what you guys do.
All right. So it happened in 2011, 2012. Finland was being talked about quite a bit during that time on how well their schools were doing academically. And I don't know, something struck me from an article that was written in the Smithsonian about what all was happening over there. And I decided, maybe it's time for me to take a sabbatical and find out what's happening and if there's anything we can do differently. From that perspective, it was in physical education. How can I come back and work in that field? But when I got over there, I realized that my childhood was unfolding in Finland. And so I'm older than y'all. And my childhood was a 6-hour day in school, not 7.5. We were in school 5 weeks shorter period of time than we are today. We had physical education daily for an hour, and we had recess.
I'm sorry, for how long?
For an hour. And we had recess.
You're just making me mad now, right?
I know. I'm telling you. And then we had recess for an hour a day, 30 minutes in the morning,
Wow.
30 minutes in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was mainly play
Yeah.
in that time period of our lives. Plus, we didn't go to the school until the age of 6 or 7, depending when your birthday hit. If it hit before Labor Day, you had to wait. You went ahead and went to school. If not, you waited until after that year, and then you'd start the next year. So there was a real guideline on that. So I went over there, and that's exactly what I saw. So I came back and said, we need to do things differently. And the 2 things that stood out were the unstructured play piece, which here I'm in the schools all the time. I mean, I supervise student teachers. I was out working with teachers in in-service trainings, and it had not dawned on me how much we'd slipped away from the recess side. I was so
Yeah.
concentrated on physical education. So I came back and I started visiting with superintendents that at the time I was looking for individuals who really saw things glass half full, wanted to make a difference with their kids, and knew that being active, being playful was an important aspect. So that's what I came back and started doing, and by 2014 we were in our first 2 schools with the unstructured play piece and a character development piece. And to me, the belief is that in order to make sure that your students in these schools are not only playful but also responsible, you have to have both pieces. And so we're about both. And so now we're in 38 schools, 2 states, 10 school districts, and looking to bring more on board.
That's awesome.
Wow, so we had a concert going on next door, huh?
It sure sounds like it.
Yeah.
So what does recess look like? So I haven't been aware of the change in recess, actually, really, until I started researching for the show. So what does it look like in the United States now?
Yeah.
Because like we were saying, we had it every day, and I felt like it was long when we were in school, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So recess here, the interesting phenomenon is because recess has been taken away for so many years, we're down to like 0 to 1 recess a day, even for our pre-K and kindergarten kids. And when they do see the recess in many schools, it's in the afternoon. Can you imagine a youngster like that not having playtime until 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 1:30? No wonder we have discipline issues out in schools, right?
And I mean, this is their first experience with having to be structured all day long.
Exactly.
And that they're used to playing all day long. That was their job. And
exactly. And now nothing.
Yeah.
So when we saw that, what we were seeing with teachers and schools is, well, they don't know how to play anymore. Well, that's true because we've taken it away, right? So everybody was more about trying to teach kids how to play instead of letting them naturally gravitate to what they wanted to do. So when you ask this question, it's complicated in that, yes, parents want their kids to play. But you talk to a 3rd, 4th, 5th grader or a middle school kid or a high school kid, and they don't know what play is anymore. All they see is sport. They see the traditional sport setting. And that brings on arguing and picking sides and who's going to be on whose team. And they don't understand just how to play. So asking the question about what's recess like, for recess they may have a one-time 20-minute sometime in the day. Or if they're not being good in class, they'll withhold it.
Yeah.
So it's a punishment. And they don't get to go that day. Or they use it for tutoring. So the kids who need play the most are the kids getting it the least. So those are the problems that we're seeing out there.
So 20 minutes a day for like a 5-year-old?
Yeah, 5, 6, all the way up.
I know, like at the 5th and 6th grade level where I was at, lunch was 30 minutes and recess was 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
You can't even get a good game going in
Oh,
that
no.
amount of time.
No.
Yeah.
A good game of tag.
Right. And then it's time to wrap. Now, sometimes we would extend it, just teacher discretion. Oh, hope nobody's listening to that. Yeah, but we would extend it sometimes.
They can't get you now.
Yeah, right. What you got to do now?
Well, and
yeah.
with one recess, the kids don't want to come in. Right?
Right.
So now you've got issues. The teachers are thinking, well, if I go out, I can't get them in, so why am I going out, right? So then there's this time issue. But when you have more than one recess, then the kids
Have
go,
something to
oh,
look
okay,
forward to.
I'm going to get to go out again.
Yes.
So they come in, they go out. The transitions are so much better when that happens. But you're right. If it's just once, you want to stay out there.
Yeah, because it was hard wrangling them when we came back in.
Yeah.
They're like, woo, and so it took some time to okay now
settle them down.
And I taught math too, so they're just loving to come to my class.
Oh, of course they are.
Right. We can't wait to go to math class. So yeah, but I'm definitely understanding everything you're saying here.
So you said they were having to teach the kids how to play. What do you mean?
Yeah, so
Doesn't compute for me.
Dave, you want to take that one? Or you want me to take it?
yeah.
Okay. So when you think about kids going out into an open landscape and they go, well, I don't know what to do. What do I do out here? They're just frozen in time on, they really don't know how to instigate any kind of activity. They've been that sheltered inside with content time, moving from class to class, being focused on classroom stuff. So when they go out, the teachers started implementing games that they could play. And they would take the equipment out there to teach them how to play these games so that they would have something to do. And it just goes against everything that LiiNK believes in, is that these kids need to understand, look, you may fumble around for 2 or 3 days figuring out how you're going to do this, but you've got to figure out what your body requires, and you've got to figure out what play is for you. And so we're all about the unstructured piece versus the structured game piece. We want them to play the way they want to play and have natural landscapes and environments for them to be able to do that in.
I have pictures in my head of Little House on the Prairie.
That would
And
be
those
a good
kids, well, because they
Yeah.
didn't have technology.
I know.
So they literally had to figure out what was fun and what they
Yeah.
liked to do. And
Yeah.
we're having to, wow, that's kind of scary. We're having to teach our kids how to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say that you don't really have to. It's just you have to have patience to allow them the time to figure it out.
Right.
Instead of thinking, well, they're going to get in trouble and we've got to put these things in front of them. But can I just move off on a piece since we're there?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Is that we have taken all responsibility away from our kids today. And this is going to go to parent responsibilities as well. Not that I'm pointing fingers by any means, but because of lawsuits and because of the safety issues and because of all the things that have hit our culture today from the past, we're in a society now where one thing happens and we remove it because it's not good for kids. It's not good for our society. It's not good for culture. When are we going to realize and wake up that our kids do have to be responsible? They do have to make good decisions about what their lives are about and when they're doing something that is really stupid, and they need to pull back from that. But instead, we're trying to protect them to the point that kids today don't make decisions for themselves. In a school setting, in any type of setting where there are adults involved, the adults figure out how to make the environment safe, or figure out how to make the classroom safe, or the school safe, or the YMCA, or wherever it is, and kids just go through the motions. There's no decision making on their part, and that's not where we need to be. And so LiiNK is trying to bring responsibility back to the decision making for kids as well.
Yeah. And one of the beautiful things about play is learning how to troubleshoot and problem solve and think for yourself. You don't have you're not with a joystick. And do they have joysticks anymore? Is
You
that
know,
even-
I don't
they're
think.
controllers. Not-
controllers.
Not
I
like
said joystick.
not,
like it was
not like
Atari. Or
Atari. Yeah, no, it's
something.
not Atari, babe. Yeah.
But they computers make the decisions for you a lot of times, and it tells you where you can go and whatnot. But when you're literally sending them out in the backyard and saying, figure it out,
Yeah,
that helps with them cognitively.
absolutely.
So education reform has increased instruction time and decreased play and recess and all the things that we've been talking about in an effort to give them what they, quote, need, right? Which is inevitably more math and reading is what they're trying to help them get more of. So how has this change impacted kids, students?
One particular way is there are so many minutes. I don't know how much y'all have seen over. Well, I'm sure Dave has, but because you've been in education as well. But the number of minutes that are required for each of the content areas is fairly lengthy for the day.
Right.
So there are very few minutes left for anything else. So the majority of school districts worry that the number of minutes that they have to capture for content is then being eliminated or used less than what it's supposed to, because we add more time for recess or more time for physical education, music, art, recess. So these things that are not as much in the content, what we might call specials or electives.
Yeah.
What we find through LiiNK and what I talk to everybody about is you're not getting as much mind time or thinking time when you have content throughout the day and no breaks. When you add the breaks, you actually speed up the learning process. So instead of having 160 minutes, 190 minutes, whatever it might be for English language arts, and 90 minutes for math and 60 minutes for science and so forth, instead you don't have to have as much time, so it goes to the quality piece and takes away from the quantity piece. So what we talk about with teachers, administrators, and so forth is get back to the quality. Quit looking at number of minutes being the game changer, because in reality, what I ask superintendents today, is it working for you to have more minutes? No, test scores are still down. It's not the minutes, it's the quality of the minutes. So if we have more breaks throughout the day of unstructured play outdoors, those kids are rebooted, their minds are ready and alert, they're ready to come back and be focused on the next piece that they have to get ready for. And that is the game changer.
So is there something that's happening with them cognitively when they're able to have unstructured time that contributes to more learning or processing and things like that?
Yeah. So the research has shown through brain activity that when kids are able to move and play and be outdoors, the synapses that's happening in the prefrontal cortex is building millions of highways. When they're inside, there's I can only give you a visual, but the picture that it shows from an indoor child versus a child who's able to be active and outdoors is their brain looks like it's asleep. It's blue, and it's just in a sleep mode. So now you think about your children out there in the schools who are sitting, or even if they're moving in the room, but they're in the classroom, still on intentional learning. Their brains don't have the time to build more highways, to connect the dots, to let go of something, go out, refresh, reboot, and come back. The research shows that when they're able to do that, that synapses is building millions of highways, and they're ready to come in and get back to work again with that learning.
So scientifically, when they're active, I'm just summarizing what you're saying here is that when the time is used for more play, then you need less time for instruction because the time is more intentional, because they're more focused, because they're more energized, and their brain is ready to learn.
It's getting more.
Yeah,
it's getting more of it.
Versus getting longer time because the brain is more lulled. And they can't focus as long.
So you can kind of think of it as like a glass, and as they're sitting in class, we're pouring water in that glass. And after a certain time, we overfill the glass, and now all that new information, that new water, is just spilling out, and it's not going anywhere. They're not storing it. Giving them the break lets them empty that glass, and now they can come back in and refill with all that new information and start to learn again. Just like they were as if they were fresh in the morning.
Wow, that's
It also helps them be able to compartmentalize. So they're able to start spatially putting their short-term memory where it needs to be. Whereas when they don't have that, the short-term memory is pretty much non-existent on being able to keep information. So when we say a kid goes home at the end of the day, goes to sleep, comes back the next day, and you say, why can't you remember what you did yesterday? It's because they haven't been able to compartmentalize and actually put it where it needs to be.
That sounds so much like our sleep episode. She talked about the importance of sleep and how when you sleep, you're remembering, or your brain is kind of grasping the stuff that you learned during the day and making it easier for you to recall it and things like that.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Sure.
So we have this story all the time where parents will say, you know, my kid comes home in the afternoon, gets on their technology, doesn't want to do their homework, wants to stay up all hours of the night, can't get them to bed. They don't want to click off, just turn it off. They said after 1 or 2 days of LiiNK doing these 4 unstructured play breaks a day, they almost fall asleep in their dinner at night, and they sleep all the way through the night.
Wow.
They sleep until the next morning when they're supposed to get up, and they're more rested. They feel good, less anxious. I mean, the whole bit. It's just socially, emotionally, physically, cognitively, these kids are settled again. They are literally the kind of kids that you want to see. But anyway,
Yeah.
funny story about sleeping in
that.
their meals. Yeah.
So just a quick question. So when you're presenting your research to the top level administrators, it almost sounds counterintuitive, you know, because, you know, as a teacher, everything's, I hate to say it, but everything's about you rise and fall on your scores.
Yeah.
How are they responding when you're showing them the research? If you had pushback on it, or are they open? I mean, if you have people say, "Well, it's about the scores," and or is it more flexible than people, you know, hearing it, being open to what you're sharing?
It's a funny phenomenon. You know, I said at the beginning we have 38 schools, 2 states, 10 districts.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd think there'd be a whole lot more
Right.
at this point.
Right.
So
It makes logical sense.
yes,
Yeah.
it does. But what you're saying is true. The majority of administrators, they know we need recess, but they don't want to give it the value that it's really worth. They want to say, yeah, kids need recess. You know, we'll put a policy in. We'll do 20 minutes of recess a day. We'll do these things. But in reality, they still are basing it on federal and state funding for scores.
Right.
And until federal and state mandates take away the financial piece associated with the outcomes, our schools are still going to feel threatened by that piece. And as a result, our children are not going to get what they so deservedly need for just growing up in the natural environment that they need.
Yeah, and I think of, like, particularly in like in urban environments, where I'm sure it's even you know,
Absolutely.
where the pressure's even higher. That I've heard of districts just taking away recess altogether,
Yeah.
Right.
completely for children.
Yeah.
Because everything rises and falls on those scores, but it's
It-
going against
Yeah.
what they really need.
It reminds me of a marathon run, and nobody has to run a marathon to relate to this, but if a marathoner finishes a race in less than 2 hours, how much time on their feet have they had to put in, right? But the one that has to spend 4 to 5 hours finishing the race, they're going to feel good about it, but it takes that long to finish, they're going to be exhausted. That's the same thing that's going on in our schools with urban development versus the suburban or out in the farm areas, is because the kids that get through faster and can move on and do other things, they're getting more benefit from getting to go out and play.
Yeah.
The ones that are in these inner city schools, they're getting less time with it and less benefit, and so it's dragging out longer and they're more fatigued. It's the same kind of ball game that they're in.
Wow.
So Dave, what is a typical schedule at a school that implements LiiNK?
So ours is a lot different from what we've been talking about as far as recess structure. So we typically will do 4 recess periods per day. They're 15 minutes in length, and what we mean by 15 minutes is they are a true 15 minutes. So we don't start the timer until they are outside, and it ends when they come back in. And then we typically do 2 before lunch and then 2 after lunch. And then the actual recess period, going to the unstructured piece, it is completely unstructured. The kids are free to do whatever they want. The teachers are more there to regulate safety among the kids. And then going off that unstructured piece again, one thing that we tell most schools is we do not allow balls out on our playground. The reason for it is that it brings structure to the recess period. So what we mean by that, if we have a basketball out there, majority of the kids are playing basketball. That is structured. It has rules. Everyone has to follow these rules in order to play. It's not
Interesting.
really free choosing. It is most directed you can be as far as recess period.
So they can't play dodgeball either? No balls.
No
Nope.
balls.
They have to, like,
Foursquare?
No balls.
No foursquare.
They can use a shoe.
Yeah.
If it'll bounce, they're good.
So going off of that is
That's very unstructured.
with no balls, but we'll see students play a game of baseball with no balls, no bats, no nothing, but they'll hit it, run the bases. Hey, I caught that. You're out at second. Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm out at second. They'll go back and continue playing like it was nothing.
I've also seen
With like
them play-
invisible balls and
Oh yeah. You
Really?
wouldn't even think that there's no ball out there.
Wow.
Yeah, it is really crazy
Wow.
to see.
But we've seen them play football out there
Oh,
too
yeah.
with no ball.
Uh-huh.
But they'll throw the jacket that's all tied up,
Uh-huh.
out there.
Wow.
Or the funny one is they have no ball and the kid will act like he missed it. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Really? You can
funny.
catch that
Yes.
ball and
I
you'll
can see
miss
my
it.
kids
But
doing
anyway,
that.
yeah, they'll do all kinds of stuff.
Wow. But it
Yeah.
forces creativity. It's
Absolutely.
like, okay, so when you have limited resources in front of you, the traditional resources that you need, or that you would have provided for you, what do? You either don't get the desired outcomes, or you have to become innovative and think creatively to get to different things. And I know, like in business and research, they say that entrepreneurs that have to be more creative, when they're limited, you get better outcomes than when you have everything provided for you. So
Exactly.
it's very interesting that it's creativity and thinking. It's problem solving.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is to get what you want. Okay, I don't have what I think I need to get there, so let me figure that out, and then they make it work.
And that's
It's
what
amazing.
kids are missing today as well, the problem solving, the critical thinking, the
Mhm.
creative abilities. They're missing those things if they don't have the play piece, the recess piece, the unstructured piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should say, this is not just at school. We're in the middle of summertime when, all they have is time if we allow them to. So, we're trying to figure out how to get our kids out more often. And we have
Yeah.
one child that would watch TV all day long if we would let.
Right. And one kid, he wants to play all day long, and
Yes.
I know we struggle with juggling because we're both entrepreneurs and trying to figure out our schedule, and so yeah, but it is important. It's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the schools that you implemented LiiNK, what positive impact with less time in the classroom have you seen?
Yeah, so I'll start, and Dave can pipe in too. We've definitely seen, and I give examples so people can really understand this. When we first started, kids would break their pencils over and over and over again because they were pushing down so hard on the lead to write, and it was anxiety driven. It was stress driven.
Wow.
And so when they start LiiNK, all of a sudden you see that they're not breaking their pencil leads anymore. They're not chewing the erasers off the top of the pencils. They're not knocking things off the desk. They're not fidgeting and moving around the room like they were. They're actually sitting and listening, or they may be looking off in space, but they're listening and they're contemplating, and then all of a sudden they'll come out with an answer. Creative answers. Oh my gosh, they have become so creative. They're storytelling on paper. Before it would be like, I don't know what to put on paper, little kids. And now it's like, oh, don't stop now. I got to finish what I'm doing.
Wow,
It's
that's great.
awesome to see the kind of things that you're seeing in the classroom. But the other thing is, without any kind of language building, they're learning each other's languages on the playground. And so they're actually learning Spanish, Russian, Chinese,
Wow.
English, all out on the playground together, which before you would think, well, I've got to teach it all to them. Well, they can teach themselves. They
It's like
can
immersion.
Yeah, but they can do that because now they have the time to do it. Or communication. Oh my gosh, they're actually learning how to talk to each other instead of texting all the time. And now they go home and they'll ask their parents, and this is the character piece as well because we're teaching this empathy piece. They'll go home and they'll say, Mom or Dad, you look so tired. Is there something I can do to help you around the house? And you're going, oh my gosh, what alien just landed in the middle of my kid, But it's true. These things are really coming back to the kids. But also from an immune system perspective, I want to talk a little bit about research again, and this comes back to what we're finding. The parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. Okay, this is all about the nervous system, stress, anxiety, and so forth. When we're cooped up inside all day, we're presenting ourselves with the stress response, the fight or flight response. We're not getting daylight. We're not getting the natural light, not getting natural breathing of oxygen. So inside, we're getting all filtered, fake stuff, right?
Yeah.
That produces that stress response state. The cortisol that's coming from that, and this is for teachers, administrators, and kids, they're all producing the stress response state on a daily basis. We then normalize it because in our minds, well, we can't go to the bathroom as often. Well, it's because we're teaching. It's because we're the kids. We can't give them every hour to go. So our bodies conform to whatever the school day gives us. We go home on the weekend and then we're exhausted. We don't want to do anything. We just want to sit. That's stress response. You go outside 3 or 4 times a day, like we do with LiiNK, and now the parasympathetic nervous response state is given. The outdoors produces that in us. It actually brings the relaxation state to us, and we feel relaxed. We start breathing differently. We start seeing things differently. The D3 that we get from the sun is actually building our immune system. So when we're outside, we're helping our eyes to be able to see better, our breathing with our lung capacity. The sun is building the immune system. We're putting our cells back together. So what we're seeing now is our kids are less sick. They're in class more. Which is helping with the learning piece. They're more focused. They're able to regurgitate things more often. All these things are starting to happen, and with zero amount of difference in test scores or academic production.
While you're talking, this is making me think about when I used to work in corporate America and I was cooped up in an office all day, but then I had friends that would smoke. They would take smoke breaks. I wonder if there's research about more productive employees when they take smoke breaks, because I never went outside.
Well, speaking
for lunch, I'd go outside.
I know. And we call them LiiNK break now, LiiNK breaks at TCU, and we actually literally tell every office person, please go outside and take your 15-minute break every hour and a half, 2 hours max. Do not let yourself sit inside. So if they're getting smoking breaks, the other people need to get their break too, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody
I
needs
always
to
thought about that. I was like, why don't I get a break?
Yes, everybody
I just
needs that
work
break.
for 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
And then eat lunch in the office
I
too
know.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So I was never getting, I was in
Exactly.
a cubicle in the middle. I didn't even have sun
I
with a
know.
window.
But just thinking, if you're complaining as an adult saying I can't work for that long, why are we making our kids sit for 4
Right.
hours?
Yeah.
Like, how does that make sense if we can't ourselves do it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I know there were a couple things that I did in the classroom to try and change things up. I couldn't do LiiNK per se, but I would tell my kids, I don't care where you sit in my classroom. I said, I don't care if you sit or stand. You can lay flat on the floor. You can sit traditionally in your desk, or you can stand up. This as long as you're focused on instruction and you're not distracting other people. And I'd have kids laid out. I mean, and a couple of them tried to doze off on me and have to,
Exactly.
knock them up. But another interesting observation. So I taught 10 years. Half my time, 5 years, were in public school in the beginning and in the end of my career. And the middle 5 years were in charter schools. What I noticed, and I don't know if it was just particular to the schools I was at, but at the public schools, we had little to no windows at all. If we had a window, it was a sliver of a window, maybe 12 inches wide, maybe a foot and a half or so. But at both charter schools I taught at, we had huge windows. You remember, the huge windows like this, and we had natural light coming in. And it was a very different, even for me as a teacher, it was a very different environment when you had sunlight coming in, and you could see the outdoors versus this confined space, and one of my rooms had no windows. A couple of them had no windows at all, and so it's just I'm just kind of processing what you're saying and how it impacted me as an educator. And I got my movement as a teacher because I'm like, how come they can't say? Well, I'm moving all day long. I was a very animated. Probably you figure out I'm a very animated guy, so I was a very animated teacher, and I'm telling them to sit, or they have to take their break.
Right.
So yeah, I totally get it. I'm just thinking through even how schools are designed and structured.
Yeah.
Is it conducive to, creating an environment where kids can do stuff like that?
You're bringing up a great point about whether we can do this indoors or do we need to go outdoors. And from all the research that's out there, the indoors, including our research, indoors is not as productive as outdoors on so many levels. But the indoors, if you don't have control over going outdoors, what you're saying is totally better than not doing anything at all, right?
Yeah.
So there are levels of what is the best and what is the worst. And the worst is they're sitting in a classroom with no windows. They're in there all day long. They don't get very many breaks. The breaks that they do get are standing in line to get your drink of water and standing in line to go to the bathroom, then go to lunch, and that's all you get.
Yeah.
The best is that they're getting to go outside multiple times a day to play and socialize and emotionally get their bodies back in check. But with that said, we've got so many groups out there, and it's usually commercial groups who are trying to say, hey, if we give them fidgety things to do in class, they'll still be
Fidget
okay.
spinners.
Yeah.
I hated those
And the
things.
bouncy balls
Oh.
that you sit on.
And they don't, from our research, they're not near as effective as being outside. Even if they have 2 or 3 of those times a day, we're still having much better production across the way than they are with staying inside and trying to do moving things versus going outside and letting them move. It's just a whole different philosophy. And they're not getting the social aspect inside as they will outside.
Right.
That social aspect is huge to these kids being productive citizens, not only as children, but as adults.
And I would imagine, now in schools we have so many children that have mental health issues, anxiety, depression, and bipolar, all these things. It's probably even more important for them to get fresh air and be outside.
Absolutely.
Let me say one thing, and then I'll let Dave go. I get this all the time with the mental health, and I go, it's a very simple resolution here. Let them go out and play, and we'll have less mental health disease. They need play in order to not have the mental health disease as they get older. We'll have much less of that when they get older. And people go, yeah, you just think play solves everything. Yes, it does. It does. Everybody needs play. Okay, I'll let Dave go. Oh, no, you're good.
No,
Okay.
you took it.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So we talked a little bit about this, with the LiiNK Project, and you guys don't allow balls outside. I think as a parent,
Today of research, including Dr. Richard Louv from California, says that sport itself is actually creating our obesity rates because the kids are not getting as much active time. They're standing around waiting for the next instruction. They're having to wait for their turn to play. They're having to wait for their offense or defense to take the line. And so, or if they're not playing, they're on the bench. So they're not doing anything but standing there. And we think that the whole idea is they're getting all that they need from sport. Now, don't take me wrong. I was a coach for many years. I believe in sport. I was an athlete. I still am an athlete. I believe in athletics. But I also believe that when kids are young, they should not be in athletics as much as the play environment. And then as they get older and can understand competition better, then they move gradually from cooperative play into the competitive arena. But right now, we're raising 3- and 4-year-olds in sport, and that's way too soon, and it's way not needed. They should be out there playing more than doing sport until they get older and can really understand what it takes. And then from a physiological perspective, oh my gosh, the number of kids that can't ever play sport again once they get to middle school and high school because their bodies are already too damaged from getting hit too soon in life.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That just shouldn't be happening. But that's where we are today, and why we take the balls away is because we really want to make sure that these kids are understanding that the environment that they're in needs to be more cooperative in environment and less competitive when they're younger, and then build into competition as they get older.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I know that we've been, with our oldest son, he's 11, and we have been more intentional about not putting him in a whole bunch of organized sports. One, because I know once that happens, we're off to the races.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but he's in a league where they only play 1 day a week. They do practice first, and then the game second for basketball, and that's it for the week. There is no more practice and stuff as well. So he's going to be getting into middle school soon, and he'll get that. But just affirms I'm okay with that.
Hey, you're doing
personally.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's one of our kids that's pretty naturally good. You throw him any kind of ball, and he knows what to do with it. And he actually he's been doing this since he was about 3. He would watch Tiger Woods and study what he did, and then he would go practice with his little plastic thing. So, you know, but still, we're wanting to, just make sure we don't turn our lives upside down, as
Right.
we know some sports can do, and just allow him to enjoy it, because
Yeah.
it just has become
Yes.
so competitive in a way that it was not when we were growing up.
Right.
You know. So I don't want to leave out older kids and the
Yeah.
importance of play. We talked a lot about the younger kids, and we know cognitively it's teaching them a lot of things. What about when I'm in high school?
Yeah, so when we started in 2014, I didn't know what to do with the middle school and high school kids, because I did feel that they had already established routines, habits, ways that their bodies responded to whatever they had. And I could just see that if we took them outside and said, play, they wouldn't be playing that activity game. They would be behind the stairwells. They would, because you're talking about
Right.
kids who now have a whole lot of other things going on in their bodies besides just play
Right.
aspects.
Mhm.
So for me, it was, I don't know what we're going to do, because it really does need to be more structured in teaching them how to do things. And even then, I just don't know that they're going to respond well to it. I mean, you think of a middle schooler or a high schooler, and all they really want to do is sleep, eat, and socialize
And
with their
scroll.
friends, right?
Scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it. And so what do we do with them? And so at the time that I started in 2014, it was like, I can't do that one, because we're not going to have the best results there to show that play is important and needed. But the answer I do have, and then I'll come back to them, is that once they start this in elementary school, this is all they know. So now we can advance through middle and high. And these kids, they're more conditioned. Their bodies are more conditioned to play. They're more conditioned to activity with each other and socialization. And now it's more purebred for what it's designed for, instead of these are middle schoolers and high schoolers that just want to find something else to do that's not necessarily what we
What we
think is
want them to do,
appropriate,
right.
So that's one side. But the other side is we've started this program now in some middle schools and high schools, and we're seeing great impact. And so what I would say is, and this goes across any program that would want to do something like this, is start with getting your 1 or 2 15, 20-minute unstructured play breaks a day with the kids, and let them go out with kids who do want to be more active. So if it's middle schoolers, make sure you got them in an environment where you can see them. Make sure it's an environment that looks more appealing, not just bleachers and football field. But take them out to a field that they don't have a place to sit unless they sit on the ground. They're going to start finding things to do, or that has rocks, big boulder type rocks that they could be on, or trees that they can climb. You'll see middle schoolers and high schoolers climbing the trees.
Really?
You'll see them going and landing on the stones, or they'll find places. I'm telling you, they'll even, if there's chalk on the pavement, they'll go play with the chalk. These kids are just big kids, and they'll do the same kind of stuff. But it's giving it to them gradually. And so what we're finding now is that it's beneficial for all. I do want to bring Finland back in for a second, because this is what I've learned from them for high school kids. When their kids get into middle school and high school, they start allowing them to do their more interest areas. So jam sessions. You'll have kids that just get together and they start with their instruments. They'll start writing songs, playing their songs, singing together. You'll have other kids come over and start singing with them. You'll have kids who go and they start working with their sculptures, or they'll start working with clay, or with whatever that they're maybe watercolors or whatever it is, so they're doing more art things. So that's music and art pieces. You'll have kids who want to go out and play sport, and that's fine by the time you get to middle school and high school. They can do it the right way, because they've learned through the character piece, the empathy piece. Oh, I don't pick you last because you're terrible. I like what you bring because you have more leadership that you can bring to the team. So I want you. Even though you may not be able to shoot a lick, you're good at defense, right?
Right.
And so you can bring kids in for the right reasons, and they think that way better once they get into those environments. So they can do lots of different things, but it's their time. And now, instead of being a 15-minute time, extend it out to a 20 to 30-minute break in the morning and a 20 to 30-minute break in the afternoon. And that becomes more of a doable piece for these middle school and high school kids. nobody's going to want to do it right now with the outcomes.
Right.
But if you could even get 1 30-minute break, you'd be doing better than
Yeah.
nothing.
Okay, so let me just ask both of you. I know, man, are we already almost out of time?
We are
Oh,
out of time.
goodness. So, parting thoughts on this. So, if you're a parent of a child that's not in a LiiNK school, or with educators who may be listening to our show, we do have educators to listen to. What can you suggest to them to help create a LiiNK-ish type of environment without having the LiiNK Project in? I feel like, from hearing what you guys are talking about, that this is great. It needs to be implemented more. But the reality is that most of our families and listeners' kids are not going to be in one of your schools. So what would you suggest on that realm to help the teachers, maybe strategies for the kids to help? I mean, so what would you recommend on that front?
And I think also, just as a parent, what do I do to help my kids get away from screens and
Right.
get out there?
Yeah, in school or home, just kind of.
Short of locking the door.
And
And
the screen
Right.
thing, I mean, I'll take the screen part. She can take the in-school part. But as far as at home, the screen time is definitely a huge problem. It shows that kids are almost 8 hours a day on some type of screen.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we have data that shows that kids are coming home and they're doing nothing. So as a parent, I would say encourage your kid to go out for an hour a day. Even if it's in the backyard, if it's out in the playground, or if it's wherever it may be, decrease that screen time manually. If you're not going to stop it, they're not going to stop being on it. So that's one thing as a parent, is just kind of encourage them to go out and play and say, maybe let's not watch your 4:30 program today. Let's go outside and play for a half hour instead. And that will at least start getting that wheels in motion as far as them being more active outside of school.
So you're encouraging the parents to come out and play with them.
Yeah. So I mean, we've also categorized screen time as kind of a babysitter almost, to where you give them the screen and say, okay, you're occupied for the next 3 hours. And we got to stop doing that as a society. And just, that's not the answer to things. And even though it's an easy solution, it's just, we need to start taking that away and start going back into where in the 90s, where we didn't have iPads to sit on all day and we were outside and playing. So I guess just go back to our roots in that sense. Yeah.
I would add to that parents need the outdoor time as much as the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not about sending the kids out to play without realizing that they need to go out and have their own time as well. So I would counter what you said a second ago about, well, they should go out and play with the kids. It depends. They could, but adults change the rules for kids. So it doesn't matter if they set the rules or they're just in the environment. It changes what the kids will do. So for me, the recommendation would be that parents go outside and they do their thing while the kids are doing their thing. And it can be that they're watching to make sure things are safe, but at the same time, they can go out and read a book. They can go out and just sit and watch. They can go out and play their own, maybe gardening or swinging in a swing or whatever, but they can do their thing while the kids are doing theirs. We want the kids to still be able to monitor their own behaviors and be able to play within their own environment. On the other hand, as far as the technology goes, I would say that the limitation needs to be to no more than an hour and a half a day. And for kids under the age of 3, it should be 0 screen time. Not even for learning, not even for what they think is, times to learn things on there. There should be 0 screen time. TV would be a different thing if there's a good show on there for them to watch. But the screen time is so close that it's really creating issues with their eyes early on and the way that their brain monitors and scrambles with what's going on with screen time. So parents of young ones under 3, stay away from the screen for giving them a movie to watch or something to do in the car. Really let them just watch out the window, be more cognizant of what's going on in the outdoors. And then for parents that are home with their kids right now, find parks to go to. Even at your own yard, that's great. That's fine. But even parks are, they can explore and they can go out and have more free space as well. Or if they don't and they can just be there at the house, that's fine too, or at their apartment. But they need to have a place that's safe for them to be in.
On our first show was the impact of gaming on education. And was it Kevin Lambert? Yeah, he's a counselor. He said the best thing, let them be bored. It's okay. let them have to don't solve the I'm bored problem for your kids. Let them have to figure that
That's
out.
exactly right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We try to keep them entertained all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what's creating a lot of issues in our schools today, is that we now think we have to entertain them to teach them. It's like, sometimes they have to explore this on their own and figure out what way will help them learn best. Adapting is crucial. Being able to adapt to the situation. Do I have time to tell one quick story?
Sure.
Okay. So I was teaching a recess class about 3 years ago as an elective on TCU campus. It was called Recess.
Wow.
And everybody thinks, well, recess is I get to go play. But that's not what it was going to be. The objective of this class was to come in and design a playground that could handle 4 unstructured play breaks a day for pre-K through grade 5 in an elementary school for longer than a year. Try to make it for a 4 to 5 year sustaining piece. We had kids from all over campus, engineers, chemists, people that were pre-med, PE teachers or going to be PE teachers, College of Ed for classroom teachers. You name it, they were in there. About 6 weeks in, I didn't have a syllabus for them. There was no expectation except that they would present at the end of the 16 weeks what their playground design looked like. They had 3D imagers. They had everything at their fingertips, right? They came back in 6 weeks and said, how are we going to be graded? And I said, by your presentation. No. What is the rubric? Do you have a rubric for me? I need to know, how am I going to be graded? I went, don't worry about it. Just do the project. Make sure you get it done. I'm giving you the fast scoop of this, but by week 12, they were angry. They were ready to take my head off. And they said, two of the students were voted to come talk to me and say, we have you in class for other things because it's our major, but really, you've got to do something because we're not going to pass this grade if we don't know what we got to do. And I said, figure it out. 12 weeks in, they still hadn't done anything, right, to really get the presentation together. I said, I'm serious. I'm not doing anything. You're doing it. Get the presentation together. They started working day and night trying to put this together. By week 16, they had their presentation. There were 4 different groups that were presenting on different parts of the playground design. They get through, and it was really a good ending. But I sat there after it was over, and there were 2 other instructors with me that were helping with this class, and we sat there and then we went, how much better could you have been if you had taken 16 weeks to put this presentation together instead of 4?
Right.
And the bottom line was this, is that these kids are part of the generation today that don't know how to play. They don't know how to think on their own, and they don't know how to respond in a way that they can adapt in a situation to what they need. It taught them a lot, and it taught me about how bad this generation is in being able to problem solve on their own. Can they do it when forced? Yes. Do we need to force them more? Absolutely. Do we need to make it part of curriculum and everything that we do? Absolutely. So on that, thanks for letting me have that story to tell.
Great ending to the show. We are unfortunately out of time, but thank you guys so much for joining us. This was a great discussion. As always, we want to let our listeners know what's happening with Noggin. So, Dave, what's happening with Noggin Education?
Just real quick, we're right in the middle of summertime. It's a good time to start getting ahead for the next school year. Also, getting ready for test prep. Don't wait until a month before you take the SAT or the ACT. Be proactive and understand how to attack the test now, and Noggin can provide those resources for you, or to get you ready for the next school year, or to refresh on stuff that maybe you didn't master from the previous school year. So let us help you. You can reach me at info@Noggin, that's NOGGIN, education.com.
And with Noggin Educational Foundation, we are in the middle of our hashtag Bought a Backpack Challenge now through August 4th. So each summer we collect brand new backpacks for the students who participate in our summer program, and we also donate to a local Title I school. So we challenge you guys to take the hashtag Bought a Backpack social media challenge, and it's really easy. All you have to do is buy a backpack, take a picture with your backpack, post the picture on social media, and tag a few friends to do the same. And for more information, you can head to schooldazedshow.com. And next week, we welcome back Michael Flores from Brighter Possibilities Family Counseling, and we'll get to meet his associate, Brooke DeLuna. Both have extensive experience working with families experiencing separation and divorce, and we'll discuss how to navigate shared custody and education. So, separation and divorce takes a balancing act when you have kids together, and getting on the same page regarding your child's academics is so important, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. And as always, head to our website, schooldayshow.com, for more information. And remember, you don't ever have to miss a show. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and Stitcher. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Noggin Foundation. That's Noggin. And last of all, we always want to say and end our show by saying that we are parenting by grace. We depend on God to give us the wisdom and strength we need to raise our kids into flourishing adults. And if you would like to know more about that, you can email us at info@schooldaysshow.com. Have a great week.
School Dazed is sponsored by Noggin Educational Foundation. At Noggin, we provide free educational resources to students from low-income families and support to their parents like the preceding broadcast. School Days is made possible by the generosity of listeners just like you. Please consider donating to Noggin at Noggin, Noggin, foundation.org.
This is Carlos Guedes Harpy. I would